Tuesday, November 29th, and this is Geeknights. Tonight, we talk about Carcassone and Hellas. Let's do this. You gonna lay off on the legacy of Amadeus?
No, because it's our current shtick.
Yeah. For anyone who doesn't know us, it's real easy for us to get shticks. And let's just say if you ever watch Big O, the end of every episode, they pick up a phone, and a guy with a funny voice says some funny words. And we'll leave it at that.
All right.
So, at work today, there's one guy at work who has a kid who's kind of cool. The kid's into animes, into gaming, so I'm trying to kind of steer him toward the proper geekeries and good works and away from the bad geekeries and the MMOs and everything.
Better than no geekeries at all.
And he doesn't want an Xbox 360 because they're a lot of money. But he wants an Xbox because he can get them cheap. So he had a friend who got an Xbox 360, the whole deal. And the kid offered to sell him his current Xbox and a bunch of games and controllers for like $75.
Oh, the normal Xbox?
Yeah.
Okay, I was kind of... Because it seemed people aren't even calling... Because 360 is so many words that, like, people are just saying Xbox.
So am I.
Yeah. So it's like...
So how do we call the old one, like...
Old Xbox, and
yeah,
the new one
like
is just
that.
Xbox, or just 360 without saying Xbox 360.
That could do it.
Yeah.
So anyway, he had a old Xbox, and he was going to sell it to this kid for $75, and he did so.
All right.
Which is fantastic.
Not bad.
2 hours later, he wanted back out of the deal. And he wanted his old crappy Xbox back really bad.
Why is that?
Apparently, his new Xbox 360 crashes if you play it for more than 20 minutes.
Maybe he should lift his power supply off the ground with the string.
Yeah, I gave him some advice, and part of that advice was make a giant heatsink and such.
Yeah, I don't know why, if this power strip is heating like
Did
this.
Microsoft not test it?
I think that some of them are bad and some of them are good.
Yeah,
it has to be what it is, but why don't they put a fan in it? There's already fans in the whole
Because there's no
case.
moving parts in it. Remember, it's a wall wart. It just happens to be very big.
I know, but there are fans and everything else. Put fans in that, too.
Because it's already too loud. People are already complaining about the loudness.
It doesn't matter if you're already loud. Being louder doesn't hurt you. You're either loud or not loud.
People they plug it in. It's loud, so they put it in their like stereo cabinets. They don't have to hear it anymore. Then it overheats.
Ta-da!
So, Microsoft, if you're listening, good game.
Good game.
For
Grenade.
the win.
In good computer news,
news.
Firefox 1.5 Final came out today.
Woohoo!
I've been using the beta for a while, and whenever they upgrade Firefox, it always amazes me what they add, because I always can't imagine more. It was a point at which, when I was using Firefox 0.5, I was like, it would really be good if they added this or this or this. And they added that and that and that almost right away.
Uh-huh.
And by the time 0.9 was out, I was like, what can they possibly add now? There's nothing else I want. It's perfect. And then in 1.0, they added something. And I was like, oh, I guess there was stuff they could add. And in 1.5, I couldn't imagine what they were going to add. And then I got the beta, and, well, hey, they amazed me yet again.
So what did they add? Because I'm still using a version prior to 1.5.
Well, first thing they did is the automatic updates and stuff of extensions and themes and Firefox itself. It now actually works.
Ooh, as opposed to just downloading an installer and then reinstalling.
Yeah.
That's already reason enough for me.
Okay. The back and forward button performance is increased. Basically what they do is Firefox sort of caches, buffers, pre-gets, whatever you would normally see if you clicked back or forward. So that way if you click back or forward, it's like instant because it already got the page when you were reading the current page.
I like that a lot.
All right. You can now drag the tabs to the left and to the right to reorder them.
I'm indifferent to that, but it doesn't
there was
hurt.
an extension to do it before, but now you can just do it. So if the tab is like to the left and you want it to be 2 to the right, you just pick it up and move it. The pop-up blocking is improved to beat the people who got around it just recently.
Haha. Even though I've only seen those pop-ups once when I went to a wares site looking for wares.
Yep. They have this new clear private data feature where basically you used to go into the options and you'd click clear history, clear cache, and there'd be a clear all button.
Yep, but that would also clear my cookies, which I didn't want it to clear.
Well, yeah, but now there's a thing you can set up where you say You basically say, if I click clear private data, clear the following things. Location bar. You choose which things you want to be cleared, and then you just click that button to clear those things.
That's real good for if you say you're in college and your mommy visits you fairly often and needs to use your Firefox.
You just go clear, and it clears out the porn.
So she doesn't see the, porn.
Right.
God, dolphins!
They added answers.com to the search engine list, which I guess you can add anything you want to that search engine list. In fact, there's like hundreds and hundreds of things you can add in there.
In fact, of all the things you wouldn't expect, IBM did something kind of cool, and they set up a thing internally where makes it real easy for people who don't know anything about Firefox to add a internal IBM search thing.
Yeah. I once made a search thing for that corner, but it was for OED, so only people with names and passwords could use it.
Yeah,
and it's not so useful to me anymore.
Yeah, I use dictionary.com when I need something.
Yeah. All right, so you remember how it used to be in Firefox when you got an error that it would pop up a little window? And then,
I used to turn that off all the time.
Yeah, you would have to do some stuff to make it do in a web page.
Yeah, well, all you had to do was change one setting in prefs.js.
Right, well now, not only is that setting, I guess, set by default,
good.
But now the little error pages that you get are actually good. They're not that ugly poop.
Not bad.
All right. There's a safe mode in case you screw it up with a bad extension.
That's good, because I've been installing Firefox on a lot of servers lately.
The options menu is redesigned, yet again, slightly. RSS discovery works a little better. There is now better accessibility for blind people, deaf people, all that kind of stuff. You know, Braille stuff and whatnot. There's a wizard for reporting a broken website. So if you find a website that doesn't work in Firefox, you just click report, and then the Firefox guys find out about it.
That's fantastic.
Yep. The OS X has improved a little bit, so you won't be screwed. You know, so it competes with Safari better, basically. And it now supports SVG, which you used to have to install something to support, CSS2, CSS3, JavaScript 1.6, and a bunch of security fixes.
Outstanding.
The CSS3 is really important because now you can use these little canvases and things. It's pretty cool.
You know,
in fact, someone already made Quake in a canvas. So basically, it's Quake in JavaScript.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
See, unless you really, really like Opera for some reason, there's really no reason to not use Firefox at this point.
Well, Opera's free now, though.
Yeah,
and it doesn't have ads anymore, so...
If you like Opera, I got to admit, Opera is a little faster than Firefox.
In the loading of pages, a little faster. But it's just crooked slightly different, Opera.
Yeah. But you know what? There's no excuse to use IE anymore. And
none at all.
I know most of our listeners don't need to know this, and they don't need to hear this, but to those of you, and I'm pointing this specifically at two people who have mentioned specifically that they still use IE, stop using it. You know, they never patched that thing I told everyone about.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, if there's a guy in the corner giving out free, Ferraris, right? And you have a Pinto, and you know it explodes, but you're just used to driving the Pinto, why? What the hell's wrong with you?
I mean, seriously. A couple lines of JavaScript. I could put it on our podcast site, and I'd get control over your computer.
Yep.
Just JavaScript. You don't have to do anything. Just visit the site.
And then we've got you.
And you know what? This JavaScript is all over the internet, and Microsoft hasn't even really figured out how to fix it yet.
And basically anyone who wants to can just stick this on their website, and if you visit using IE, you're pooned.
And I know some people say, oh, well, Firefox has exploits too, and blah, 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 and as it gets more popular, it'll have more. But, one, not really. It's had a handful, and they were all patched within 24 hours. I think the longest time it ever took for a patch to come out was like 30 hours.
That was one that took a couple days, but it wasn't a serious, end of the world, I can take over your computer.
Yeah,
the worst that anyone can do is take over your Firefox. No one can take over your computer with a Firefox hole.
Yeah.
They can take over your computer with an IE hole.
In fact, trivially, I could tell you right now exactly what JavaScript to type to do it.
Yep.
I'm not going to.
There was actually an interesting discussion the other day about people were talking about Firefox's market share, and it's about 10%, a little less maybe, right, in terms of number of people. But what they were saying is that they don't think that statistic, even if it's accurate, is really relevant or important because the people who use IE aren't people who visit lots and lots of websites. So the people who maybe sign on, visit websites, sign off. anyone who actually visits websites and goes around the web and does web things on a daily basis or a frequent basis, most of them use Firefox, at least 90% of those types of people. Because if you go to websites that are the kind of websites that only nerdy website internet savvy people use, like a Delicious or like nerdy blogs or super podcasts, most of the visitors are Firefox by a wide margin.
Yep.
So if you're not using Firefox, you're all the smart people use it. There's a reason all the smart people
seriously,
use it. They went through effort to switch to it.
I look at the statistics on our site through the feeds, and there is one person using Internet Explorer that I can see.
Awesome.
One. You know who you are. Stop it.
All right.
Not to be mean, but it's bad for you.
Yeah, we're not going to tell you to do something because, we have some evil agenda. I mean, what the hell do we gain? It's just your loss that we're trying to prevent here.
So, segue
into
thing of the day.
The thing, and not the guy who's made of rock on the Fantastic Four.
That was really bad.
Shut up.
Yeah. So it's the thing of the day.
Oh, yeah.
Is better.
Do more.
All right. So, technology to keep kids off my damn lawn has grown a little bit.
Really?
There's this old codger, and it's in Britain, and he doesn't like the fact that punk kids hang out in front of his shop.
If I had a shop, I wouldn't want punk kids loitering in front of it either.
Yeah? And he realized, and this isn't really science, but it's kind of true in a general sense, that generally, older people cannot hear certain frequencies that younger people can, because younger people haven't been to as many concerts. Plain and simple. So he made a little device that makes really annoying high-pitched noises. Like, remember when you were in high school and, the TV in the corner would be on and everyone in the class could hear it and they're like, but the teacher didn't hear anything?
Yep.
It's like that.
Ah.
So he has this making this noise outside of the front of his store. And teenagers and punk kids hear it, but all the adult customers who come in don't.
Won't
generally.
the dogs be pretty pissed?
Oh, yeah, dogs hate it.
Yeah, if you run a pet shop, you don't want to use this.
No.
So we should go hang out in front of the swingin'est pet shop in town.
So I thought, while it's kind of bleh, I got to admit, for a guy who doesn't seem to know much about science, it's a pretty novel solution to his problem, and I applaud him for that.
Yeah, I wonder if it'll work, though.
Well, there were places in Britain earlier that started playing classical music in order to keep kids from hanging out.
Did it work?
Not really. Kids like classical music.
Yeah, me too.
But the only thing wrong with this is that the guy seems to think he got on this kick when reporters interviewed him, and he was talking about how he'd like to make a stronger one that could be used against this process or this method of thievery called streaming that apparently happens in Britain.
Streaming?
Streaming is
like streaming video?
Yeah, only streaming shoplifting instead. Imagine you're in a little shop and you're standing there, and suddenly 15 to 20 young teenage punks run into your store, start smashing things and grabbing everything they can in a giant mess, and then they all run out and scatter. Suddenly.
While they ran in, first of all, if this happened more than once, I would have heard about it. Unless I was the first victim, in which case I'm the first victim, oh well.
Yeah.
Right, if I'd heard about it, as soon as those guys came into my store, it took me about the second to realize what was happening, and I'd lock the door. And they'd be stuck in my store. And then I would have a shotgun. And then anyone who tried to walk out of the store with stuff would die.
Yeah.
Or I would fill them with rock salt. Which would be okay, probably.
Now, the guy seems to think that if he made a stronger version, he could stun all these kids when this happens and prevent the theft.
Maybe with an LRAD, not with one of these.
No.
Definitely not with one of these.
But still, I thought it was cool, and it was a slow news day, so that's all I got.
All right, so do you remember back in the day there was this thing called Master Maze, which was basically you paid $50 and you got this big heavy box with this metal already painted modular dungeons.
Oh!
And you could make a dungeon for D&D by putting these pieces together, and it would be nice in 3D. It had walls.
And it was awesome. It was just really, really expensive.
It was awesome, but really expensive. But it had nice little, 1-inch squares and everything, and it was really cool. You could make dungeons with opening doors and treasures and everything. Wicked cool. Well, some guy took it to the next level. What he did is he made a brand new role-playing game system. And this system depends on something quite like the Master Maze. Only, and here's where the geekiness factor doubles and triples, it is implemented with 100% Lego.
Wow. Wouldn't that almost be more expensive?
I think it would, but he's got rules for a system. He's got little guys for each class. He's got modular dungeons made of Lego, like monsters, character sheets, the whole thing. It's an RPG that you play on the table with Legos to represent your guys.
You know, not only is that badass, but I probably have enough Legos in my collection to do it.
I bought mostly Castle Lego in my day. I got a lot of Castle Lego.
Now, see, I guess we're old fogies, but when we were kids, you could buy buckets of generic Lego pieces for almost nothing.
It wasn't almost nothing.
It was almost nothing. I'm talking about when we were like 5.
Yeah.
Because Lego almost went out of business.
What? They didn't go out of business.
They almost did. They had a lot of trouble not that long ago. The problem with Lego was that Lego bricks are incredibly durable, and it's almost impossible to destroy them. So, as they sold more and more Legos, the demand for Lego dropped because people would pass them on to kids. People would sell them on not on eBay back then, but people would sell them and trade them. And once you had a certain amount of Legos, you didn't need any more.
Unless you were a nut like this guy.
Yeah. So they cut back on selling generic pieces, and they made their sets more expensive, and they added a lot of special parts that can't really be used in anything else to try to get people to buy more Legos.
Well, Legos are still cool. They didn't go too far.
Oh, I'm not claiming they're not cool.
I think if they went a little farther, they would be over the edge. But
yeah, they're a little too pricey now, but I have enough Legos to make a small house, so...
I got plenty of Lego. You're not supposed to call them Legos.
Oh, yeah.
It's Lego, Lego.
Lego.
Lego is the pearl of Lego.
Lego my ego?
No.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if you like D&D or role-playing games, you just or Legos, you just totally got to check this out. It's freaking awesome.
It's the main bit. The main bit that doesn't have music for the main bit yet.
We're getting music real soon.
Yeah, we're working on it. So it's gaming day, and we've got 2 new games.
And they're not video games.
Yeah, for once. So Carcassone is a really fun game, and we've played it a lot.
Yeah, if you haven't played Carcassone, it's a tile-laying game. You basically take turns laying tiles, and you put guys on the tiles. You could put them on the grass, on the road, or in a castle, and then you finish the roads with other tiles, and you finish the castles with other tiles, or you build enough castles in the grassy area, and then you have score depending on how well you placed your guys.
It's really quick, really fun, really simple, and it was a good game.
It was actually so good that it's a German board game that got sold at Toys R Us. So
yeah, that's saying a lot.
Yeah.
Now, it's a great game, but there are a million expansions for it, and we figured out why. Well, many reasons why. But the base set, after you play it a lot and you get good at it, you discover that due to the way the tiles are set up, it is basically, it's easier to screw other people than it is to get points for yourself.
Yeah. For example, if someone else is going to finish a castle for a bunch of points, you know that such and such a tile does not exist, so you arrange other tiles in such a way so that they need a tile that does not exist in order to complete their castle. And thus, their castle does not complete, and they don't score points.
And if you're playing this game with, 5 people, no one ever finishes anything, and it's just a game of who screwed who the most.
Yep, that's if the people know who know how to play. If you play with noobs or if you've never played before, this won't happen. You'll pretty much play a nice, easy game.
So we picked up the hotels and citadels or cathedrals.
Inns and cathedrals.
Inns and cathedrals
expansion.
And it only adds 18 tiles to the game. It adds 2 new kinds of tiles, and they actually add a lot to the game, I found. I was skeptical at first, but they actually make it really interesting.
Yep.
But these 18 tiles are all the weird tiles that didn't exist in the other game. They're all like a city and then like a road coming in a weird direction.
Or like a city, or like 4 city end caps all around a piece of grass.
Now, you play this game with like 40 tiles, so you wouldn't think adding 18 tiles makes a difference.
Makes a huge difference.
It's a completely different game. It's now actually a game of completing things, because every time you think you screwed someone and you walled off their city and they can't find a piece, They draw the piece they need like 3 times.
See, the problem was, though, is without the expansion, you end up always needing a tile and then not getting it.
Now
with the expansion, not only do you get the tiles you need, you get a bunch of really wicked tiles that you don't need, and you have to end up sticking them way off at the edge of the map because you don't have a weird situation to use them in because you filled it up already.
And I gotta say, it's fantastic. Since there's only 2 of us, we like playing 2-player games, and there aren't that many good 2-player games. Carcassone has been renewed to the point that I think we're going to play it after we finish the show tonight.
Yeah, it definitely, the expansion revived the game. You know, it was big, then it kind of faded, then we played it a little bit, then it faded, then the expansion has revived it to full.
I can't wait to play the expansion with more people.
Yeah. The thing, I think, with more people, I think, actually, all the tiles will get used awesomely.
Yeah, I imagine...
But anyone who tries to go for the size castles we're going for will be unhappy.
Or multiple people will try to finish castles and then try to edge each other out with the big dude.
Oh, as opposed to where now we try to edge each other out in the farms. The farms won't matter so much.
Yeah,
and they'll be
that's what I'm
going for the
thinking.
big 70-point castles with the 2 cathedral whatever's in them.
So
Also,
Carcassonne...
I used to not pay attention to roads so much, but now with the inns, I keep getting lots of road points.
Yep, but so often you think, if you ever play this game, you'll think, how could anyone ever screw me on a road? How could I ever get to the point where I couldn't cap off a road? You freaking can't cap off roads because people will screw you.
Yeah.
I won because of it, and you won because of it.
It's a good plan.
Yeah.
The other thing is there are other Carcassonne expansions, like there's
Billions of them.
Well, some of them aren't expansions. I actually looked into it.
Yeah.
Some of them are actually other games, and what they did is they rebranded the games as Carcassonne the Castle or Carcassonne the something else.
Yep, like the dragon and the princess.
Yes, so that people who liked Carcassonne would be more likely to buy this other game. But some of them are expansions, like the dragon and the princess or whatever it's called, and there's another one with a little count. Like,
Yeah.
Count Dracula, but not a vampire, that goes around the map. And like the dragon eats your farmer guys, and the princess saves them, and there's little witches and fairies and things. And I don't know if I like those expansions so much, but I haven't tried them, so I can't say. But if this expansion runs dry, I'll definitely be willing to try some more.
Yep. So if you ever buy Carcassonne, just pick up Inns and Cathedrals. It's definitely worth it.
Yeah. But as for the other games that are labeled Carcassonne that are actually completely different games, well, they're not completely different. They're similar in that they are tile-laying games that you place guys on the tiles, which is why they're able to label them Carcassonne. But the ones that aren't actually Carcassonne, I don't know. I guess you have to look at them individually. Maybe what the original games were to figure out if they're good or not.
We also picked up a bunch of other games, but we only played one of them because the rest require more than 2 people.
We'll play those by next week, hopefully.
Yeah, because hopefully
they look super awesome.
Yeah, have to head up to Albany, grab some Pete, and play some board game.
Well, card games. They're card games.
They're games. Games.
Anyway, the game that we were able to play, which is 2-player, which I bought because it was 2-player and was recommended as a good 2-player game, is Hellas. Hellas.
As in Hellenic culture, Greeks.
It's a big Greek game. In
Yeah.
fact, the names of the little guys in the game, it just says Greeks. Put your Greek on the island. It's, we played it once.
I won handily.
Yeah. The game isn't perfect, but it's better than the impression before playing it would let you feel.
Because once we played it, it's fun. And it looks like once we both get good at it and kind of figure out the strategies and the counters to the strategies, it looks like a decent kill-some-time 2-player game.
Yep.
The problem was when we were first reading through the rules, it sounds real arbitrary.
It's like you can only have 3 guys here, and you can only have this many this, and you can only do this when the moon is in the southeast, and
Friggin'
blah, blah,
squiggly
blah, blah,
lines.
blah.
If there's a squiggly line on the card, you can use it sometimes, but other times you can't. And
Yeah, and the rules aren't... They don't have the super preciseness of wording that 100% what things do and
we
when.
actually had to look up errata on one rule because there was no way to know.
Yep. And, sometimes it's a little vague, like, can you play God cards now? Can you play them now? Does this one matter? Does that one matter? Can I go back on that? And sometimes it feels a little loose. Like, You know, I'm used to having games where the rules are you do this, then you do this, then you do this, and that is the end, and you get this many points.
Yeah, like you can just play cards whenever.
Yeah,
you can
so
be
it's like
I play a card.
Yeah.
Well, I play a counterspell to that. Well, I play a counterspell to your counterspell. Well, I play a card that lets me take my counterspell back and play it again.
Yep.
I do the same. And then I play my original card.
Yeah, there are cards just flying around everywhere, and it feels kind of willy-nilly, which isn't such a good feeling.
Except it isn't actually willy-nilly. It's actually very precise. You just have to get over that feeling.
Yeah.
Also, if you play the game, Scott, this is why Scott lost. He made the mistake of thinking that it was a game of conquer territory, move your guys around, have strong armies. It's really a card game and a maneuvering game.
Mm-hmm.
So
the cards pretty much make the whole game because you're only allowed to have 3 Greeks in a city. So
and you have a limited supply of Greeks.
And you have a very limited supply of Greeks. So you basically you must spread the Greeks thin. So getting new territory is all about cards. You can't do basically if you try to do something without cards, your chances of succeeding are pretty much nil.
Or voyaging, which you just never did.
I tried to do voyaging, but I always felt so weak that I didn't want to voyage because then I wouldn't reinforce my position.
Yep, the thing is, I was equally weak, so I realized that.
You were a little stronger than me, though, in a lot of places.
That's because I'm better and smarter.
Whatever, but
stronger, braver, faster, handsomer.
But whatever. The thing is that you want to play it like Risk, but you can't. You just have to try to get more islands, and then
it's not Risk. Don't think it is. You'll lose.
You'll totally lose.
Or unless the other guy also thinks it's Risk, and then no one will ever win.
There is the one thing though is that because the cards basically make the game, is that if you don't get the cards, it's like you'll get every card because there's so few. But if you don't have the cards you want when you got them, when you want them,
I think that's BS. Because basically what I did is I drew cards that I didn't want, and I didn't get the cards I wanted. So what I did is I looked at the cards I had and thought, well, then I can use these cards to do this, and I had to change my strategy constantly.
Yeah, I tried to use whatever cards I had. I tried to do something with, but a lot of times it just blew up in my face. The other thing is
you gotta save cards. Don't use a card unless you have to. That way, when you need a card, you got a card.
Yeah. But
the one thing about the game that bugs me is it feels, because we said earlier the rules are kind of arbitrary, it feels like they made this game and they played it, and then they realized, oh, it's broken. If you do this, you win automatically. So then they made a rule against that. And then, oh, now it's broken this way. And they just tacked on rules until the game was balanced.
Yeah, it does kind of feel like that.
Of course, it's balanced, so.
Yeah, it's balanced.
Definitely not an A game.
Not an A game.
But not a C game.
No. Oh, if I had to take one 2-player game with me to the end of the world, this would not be it.
I'd take San Juan.
Maybe San Juan. But, if we're sitting around, we want to play a 2-player game, you got, the other games are a little played out, it's not bad. It would definitely be in, I guess, in top 10 2-player games so far.
Yeah, we don't know so many 2-player games. I mean, technically Tigris and Euphrates is 2-player, but it only lasts about 3 rounds.
It's not a very good at being a 2-player game.
Shogun is 2-player. So is Risk.
Yeah, those aren't very good at 2-player games either. That's like Alhambra. Yeah, you can play with Matt.
Matt.
Yeah. But there are a whole bunch of other 2-player games in this series. They all come in the same little square boxes, and they say Cosmos on them with a K. And one of the other ones is Lost Cities. I'm thinking about going to try that. It's pretty popular, and there's some other ones. So this is just one of the more popular ones in the series. So I got it, tried it, not really regretting buying it. So we like the German board games, and
if you haven't guessed.
So since the college ended, there hasn't been too much opportunity to play them because a lot of them need more than 2 people.
Granted, we've had some crazy weekends of gaming where we played every game.
Yeah, of course, but since I left college and got here with the job and everything, I've been looking for some people to play with. And, Board Game Geek was the place, and I did kind of find some people, but it never really came together 100%.
Yeah, I missed all this. I was out of town.
Yeah, and I heard about a group called MAWS, like weeks and months ago maybe even. But I could never actually find them because the only way to contact them was old email addresses that weren't used and all kinds of stuff like that.
Why don't they have a website?
They're going to have one soon, I guess. That's at least what that was said.
Should we make it for them? I mean...
Someone else, I think, already made it, but some people have to look it over. I don't know. I don't care.
Great. So what does MAWS stand for?
Mid-Hudson Area Wargamer Society.
Every gamer club like that has a weird name like that. And
because
RIT,
they think that...
was RWAG, the Rochester Area Wargaming Guild.
Rochester War Game.
Something like that.
Society. Well, anyway, that's because all of these things, all the clubs that are still around are the ancient. They're the really old clubs from like the 70s, from when it was wargaming. And now that wargaming is less popular, they've moved over to the German games and the RPGs and CCGs and things.
Why don't we start our own club with a non-stupid name right here in Beacon?
I guess.
Let's
the guy
do
who
it.
does the board game podcast, his group is the Santa Clarita Board Gamers.
All right, we've officially formed a group in Beacon. There's 2 of us. We'll name it later.
The Beacon Board Gamers. Anyway, so I finally found these guys, via someone else posting on Board Game Geek, and I was just lucky I visited that day because I don't go there that often, and I saw the word Poughkeepsie. So I went down to the Dragon's Den, which is a local game store. It's not the greatest game store. It actually moved. It's a little better now, but, it's all right. Went down there, played some games. The guys are pretty much typical middle-aged gamer guys, They're not very attractive, but, they're funny. They know how to play games. It was a good time, And if I didn't have anything better to do, I wouldn't mind going back, playing some more games. So there was when I first got there was some guys were actually playing a super real war game, and I was like, whoa.
You mean the kind of game where 2 guys sit there and, like, a tank runs into another tank?
Where there are little tiny squares of cardboard with numbers and symbols on them?
And they don't roll dice. They actually sit there with an encyclopedia, and they look up the different,
well,
like,
it wasn't
and
an
then they
encyclopedia, but, like, they had a map, a real kind of, somewhat more real map than any kind of game I play. And little things that were like airplanes and tanks and the names of airplanes and
See,
tanks.
those games scare me. That's the kind of game where you'd look up in a book and then you'd say, yeah, but this tank in the real world had 2-inch armor and therefore the shells couldn't penetrate. And the other guy would say, yeah, but...
And a bunch of other guys are sitting at another
gamer.
table. So I sat down with them. One guy was the guy that I spoke to on Board Game Geek. He was an okay kind of guy. He was a little grumbly. Took the games like this tiny bit too seriously.
That's tough for us to say, because we take our games pretty damn seriously.
Yeah, it was like he'd be a little grumbly, like if you did a move against him, and stuff like that. It was cool though. There was another guy. I don't remember anyone's name. One guy was Z-Man. He actually owned a game company, Z-Man Games. He was an okay guy, but he was talked too much a little bit. I met the owner of Dragon's Den actually right before I left. He was a cool guy. I mean. He was trying to push his products, which I guess is understandable, and, kind of puts me off when someone is like that. But other than that, he seemed like, a decent guy, looks like a game store owner, The game store does sell a lot of paintball airsoft, and that seems to be their biggest money maker, which is kind of sad. But anyway. I played a bunch of these simple German-type card games that were pretty fun. One of them was with these red chips. It was like a game of chicken. It was pretty cool. Another one I played was... what was the other one?
Do I need to add a cue here? Did you lose your
yeah.
memory?
As soon as I remember what the other one was, just add the cue. And
you played some games.
Yeah.
So, that's probably our best chance to actually have people to play board games with nowadays.
Yeah. Oh, I played one other game that was called Vegas Showdown. It was a game from Hasbro. Well, they called it Hasbro Hill, Avalon Hill, the label that does, like, Axis and Allies and all those things. And, I was kind of iffy on this game with its Vegas theme and such. But actually, it turned out to be a really good game, despite the Vegas theme. Like, you bid on pieces of a casino, and then you build a casino out of them, and you use the casino chips for money.
Ooh, I like bidding games.
Yeah, it was actually a much better game than I thought, even though I lost horribly. Yeah. Overall, good time.
All right, so there's some geeks out there.
Yeah, if you're, down in the mid-Hudson Valley.
Hudson River, that area.
And you're looking for some German-type board games or anything like that, there's a mailing list, and I guess you can get on it by some miracle of finding these guys because they like to hide in a hole somewhere.
We'll post whatever links we can come up with whenever we come up with them.
Yeah, and get some gaming action going on.
Or, email us and come to Beacon. We got a big house, and we'll play some board games.
Oh, yeah.
I'll warn you, though, if you play Puerto Rico or Tigris and Euphrates with us, expect to cry.
I don't know. These guys didn't cry when I played against them, even though I did shut the guy down in external conflict with 5 blue tiles. He came after me in this blue external conflict. He was so confident. He was ahead by 5, and I was like, 5 blue tiles. I was just 5 blue tiles. And he was like dying. I was like, yeah, that's what you get.
See, I'm not saying, oh, we're so good, blah, blah, blah. I'm saying we're bastards. Like, most people who seem to play board games don't bevagong. They don't take their turn.
These guys definitely did not take their turn. They took their turn faster than some people I know, but they didn't. They're not. I took my turn instantly, and they did not.
Because Board Game Geek, I saw a thread where people talking about, what do you do when your friends take too long? And the consensus seemed to be that you take no more than a few minutes on your turn. We take about 5 seconds and get really pissed if someone takes more than about 5 seconds.
Yeah, people wonder, like... They were amazed when I said I played Puerto Rico 5 times in a day. That must mean 10 hours to them. It means 4 hours to me.
Yeah.
So.
Because, I mean, a lot of games, like we have a friend, Scott Johnson, and he's un-fucking-feedable at this game called Acquire.
Apparently, a lot of people use that same strategy of just figure out the answer.
What he does, a lot of games, if you sit there and think long enough, you'll know exactly what to do because you can calculate every option.
Because there are too many options to think of them instantly, but it's not like chess where you would have to think forever to figure out every possible move. There's a limited number of moves, and you can calculate the points of each one.
However, to me, that reduces the skill of the game because if everyone does that, the game takes forever, and then everyone makes the perfect move every round.
The thing is, I don't like a game where you can do that. Even if there's a whole bunch of choices, because then a computer can beat the game.
True,
and
but
if a computer can do it, why am I doing it?
You can do that in Tigris and Euphrates, and I've seen ways to do it, where I could sit there and count and come up with statistics immediately. Well, not immediately, but I could come up with statistics.
I don't think you could write a fully optimized AI to play Tigris and Euphrates.
Oh, no, I couldn't, but I could come up with the percent chances I have of everything I want to do succeeding. And I sat there and thought
but you can't think of every option, and you see every future of every tile. In Acquire, you can see every spot that you can do something and figure out each move that's possible, not just each move you might want to do.
But I think the point is, in games like that, part of the skill is not only being able to think of what to do, but being able to think of it quickly.
Yeah. I think that they should have a lot of games should have variants with egg timers. I might go buy an egg timer.
We should get one, or actually, we should buy a chess timer.
Yeah, well, you get the little gaming egg timers. They're like specifically for games. They're 1 minute.
Yeah,
those are good.
So, is it time to leave?
It's time to leave.
A legacy of Amadeus. And that was Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music.
Thanks for listening. Please remember to point your favorite podcatcher at feeds.feedburner.com/geeknights to get the latest episodes as soon as they're released. Also, please visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com for the latest updates and forum discussion. And whether you love or hate our podcast, we won't know unless you send your feedback to us at geeknights@gmail.com.